In the pre-dawn darkness on February 28, 1944, at Royal Air Force Debden, England, 40 miles north of London, the roar of Packard Merlin engines filled the air. These were not Spitfires, but P-51D Mustangs, freshly delivered and still smelling of factory paint. The pilots climbing into the cockpits had never flown these aircraft before, not even for a familiarization flight. Beside the lead aircraft stood 26-year-old Lieutenant Colonel Donald James Matthew Blakeslee, whose icy composure and fiery determination were clear. Blakeslee had promised his commanding general that the pilots would have these brand-new fighters operational within 24 hours. When General William Kaptener asked how pilots could possibly learn to fly a new aircraft in such a short time, Blakeslee's response was simple and audacious. They would learn how to fly them on the way to the target. Just days later, Blakeslee's pilots would escort B-17 Flying Fortress bombers over Berlin in the first-ever round trip for single-engine fighters to the German capital. This mission would alter the course of the air war in Europe and set the stage for the destruction of the Luftwaffe. It was not a story about technology defeating Germany, but about how one man's belief in his aircraft and his men turned a good fighter into the Luftwaffe's worst nightmare. Blakeslee's leadership, tactical brilliance, and unwavering faith in his team allowed him to do what no one thought possible: take the air war to Germany's doorstep. The North American P-51 Mustang was initially designed as a low-level fighter bomber, not a high-altitude escort fighter. When the prototype first flew in October 1940, it was powered by the Allison V-1710 engine, which performed well at lower altitudes but failed at higher elevations, where it couldn't maintain the power needed for combat, despite its early success in ground attack and tactical reconnaissance. The Mustang's performance above 15,000 feet was disappointing, especially when facing Luftwaffe fighters such as the Messerschmitt Bf-109 and Focke-Wulf 190. The British, however, had an idea: replace the Allison engine with the Rolls-Royce Merlin, a high-altitude engine used in the Spitfire. By October 1942, engineers completed the first conversion of the Mustang with the Merlin engine, designated the Mustang X. The results were extraordinary. With the Mustang now capable of reaching over 440 km at 28,000 feet and a service ceiling of 42,000 feet, the Mustang's range remained exceptional, making it a perfect fit for long-range escort missions. North American Aviation began building versions with the Packard Merlin engine in 1943, and by June of that year, the P-51B Mustang was rolling off the production line. By the time the P-51Bs arrived in England, they were being assigned to new units in the 9th Air Force, which was focused on tactical operations rather than the experienced fighter groups of the 8th Air Force. The Pentagon had classified the Merlin Mustang as a tactical fighter because earlier models had been used for ground attack. This decision, however, was based on bureaucratic policies rather than the true capabilities of the aircraft. Blakeslee, however, refused to accept these restrictions. He had spent years fighting the Luftwaffe and understood that the P-51 Mustang was the aircraft needed to protect bombers on their long-range missions over Germany. Don Blakeslee's obsession with the Mustang paid off. By the end of February 1944, he had successfully transitioned his pilots to the P-51B Mustang in just 24 hours, a feat that seemed impossible. 4 days later, the 4th Fighter Group escorted B-17s and B-24s to Berlin, marking the first time single-engine fighters had completed the 1,100-mile round trip. The Luftwaffe showed up in force, but Blakeslee's pilots accounted for multiple confirmed victories, ensuring the bombers reached their target and returned home with minimal losses. On March 6, 1944, the 4th Fighter Group repeated the mission. A massive air battle ensued, with the Luftwaffe defending Berlin in full force. The 4th Fighter Group claimed 75 enemy aircraft destroyed. while the 8th Air Force lost 69 bombers. The Luftwaffe, however, suffered catastrophic losses, with 160 fighters downed, losses they could not replace. Blakeslee became the first American pilot to fly a single-engine fighter over Berlin. 2 days later, he was promoted to full colonel at age 26. Blakeslee understood that destroying the Luftwaffe was not just about protecting bombers, but about hunting down German fighters wherever they could be found. Under Major General James Doolittle's leadership, the primary mission of fighter escorts shifted to attacking and destroying German fighters wherever they could be found, whether in the air, on the ground, or during takeoff or landing. Blakeslee fully embraced this doctrine. From above the battlefield, he would orchestrate attacks, directing his squadrons with unmatched precision. He kept track of the constantly changing airspace, ensuring his pilots were always in the right position to strike. In April 1944, Blakeslee's 4th Fighter Group claimed 26 enemy aircraft destroyed and 16 damaged in a single mission, the highest score ever claimed by a single squadron in American history. By the end of April, the group had surpassed 500 confirmed victories, and by summer, they had reached 700. The Luftwaffe was losing pilots faster than they could train new ones, and their resources were dwindling. By June 1944, the Allies had achieved air superiority over Western Europe, and the Luftwaffe had no chance of countering the massive invasion on D-Day. With the destruction of the Luftwaffe's ability to defend German airspace, Allied bombers could operate virtually unopposed. In just a few months, the P-51 Mustang had proven itself as the ultimate weapon in the air war over Europe. Blakeslee continued to lead his squadron to victory after victory. His leadership was relentless, innovative, and aggressive. He led from the front, taking the same risks as his pilots, earning their trust and respect. By the end of the war, the 4th Fighter Group had destroyed over 1,000 enemy aircraft, becoming the highest-scoring American fighter unit in Europe. Blakeslee's legacy as one of the most decorated pilots in history remains untarnished. He went on to serve in Korea and commanded fighter wings throughout the jet age, but he always shunned publicity and avoided biographers. When he died in 2008, just short of his 91st birthday, his contributions were honored with full military honors at Arlington National Cemetery. Blakeslee's story is a testament to the power of leadership, innovation, and relentless pursuit of victory. The P-51 Mustang may have been the weapon, but it was Blakeslee and his pilots' courage and leadership that brought victory to the skies over Germany.